On the edge of the North Yorkshire moors, where the wind keeps older secrets than the church bells, a forgotten convent crouches in the fog like a stone gargoyle. Every midnight, when the peat-braided clouds drift low and the lanterns in the miners' cottages sputter out, 18 orphan girls file into the freezing chapel. No one teaches them the melody they sing. The notes find them, threading through the cracks of stained glass saints, settling into their lungs like cold smoke. The hymn begins softly, a lullaby spun from half-remembered Latin and something far older, then rises until the rafters tremble and the ravens outside fall silent, as if the music has stolen the sky's breath. Travelers swear the song can fracture. Mirrors stop pocket watches and once made the river change its course. Tonight the wind is carrying that tune toward you. Lean closer, listen carefully. The next verse hasn't been written yet, and it just might have your name in it. Scarborough Road, January 4th, th 1852. When the mail coach deposited me at the milestone for Whitley-on-Moors, I could barely see the convent spire. A pale winter dusk shrouded the vale, each field dissolved into pewter mist. My suitcase won. Brown valise containing a hymnal, a threadbare wool dress, and a medical primer bit into my palm. I remember thinking, so this is exile, the end of all things bright and scholarly. My Oxford lectures traded for the clamor of farm crows and salt sore. Winds off the North Sea, but I had asked for exile. The bishop's letter still rustled in my cloak pocket. A teaching post at St. Clara's convent school, population 18 orphans, female. Choir mistress urgently needed. Your training in music, coupled with your vow of service uniquely, fits the position. I'd accepted in a fit of righteous shame, my conscience scorched by a youthful dalliance with the very professor who taught me plainsong. Better to flee than embroil the diocese in scandal. So here I stood, 29, breathing peat smoke, wholly unprepared for what those orphans would sing. A lantern bobbed down the lane. Sister Agnes, sub-prioress, emerged starched wimple, cheeks pinched by cold, voice thin as quill scratching. Lucy. Ah Ning, quickly child, the fog steals the road after vespers. She called me child, though I outranked her by 5 years. I bit my tongue, a habit the confessional would later praise, and followed. St. Clara's convent, stone, silence, and 18 little voices. The convent, founded 1781, crouched against the moor like a brooding rook. Its chapel occupied the oldest wing, coal-sooted arches, oak beams thick as boar trunks, stained glass. Of St. Cecilia cleaving an organ pipe with luminescent ruby. A draft whistled Latin through broken leadwork dot. In the refectory I first beheld the orphans, 18 girls, ages 7 to 13, seated in 2 rows like mismatched china cups. Fever scars, freckles, and homespun frocks in dull peat colors. Few looked up. They were chewing barley stew with an almost militaristic quiet. Sister Agnes performed the roll call. Clarissa Barnes. Present, sister. Hannah Moore. Present. On and on until the final name, Eva Wright, received no reply. Agnes frowned. Ava is not communicative, she whispered. Mute? No. Obstinate, perhaps. I scanned the table. At the far end a tiny figure sat rigid, spoon untouched. She possessed hair the shade of maize silk and eyes startlingly gray, palest pewter rimmed in dusk-ring blue. Her classmates treated the silence as ordinary. A choir cannot afford muteness, I ventured. Agnes shrugged. Ava sings. She simply, rarely talks. That night, after Compline, I lay awake in my cell listening. Wind ticked slates, sheep bleated. Somewhere a girl sobbed into her blanket. I prayed, not for myself, but for the courage to inhabit whatever role these children required: teacher, surrogate mother, confessor, sentinel against nightmares only orphans know. I did not pray for miracles. Perhaps I should have. Rehearsal. 1. A hymn without author. January 6th arrived frost firm, sky rinsed china blue. Rehearsal convened at 10 bells. I stationed the girls in 2 semicircles by height. They clutched chipped hymnals, edges furred, pages missing Psalms 14 to 20 entirely. I chose pure natus in Bethlehem simple melody, Latin they half knew from. Mass, we had barely pitched the opening rejoice when Eva raised her hand. A motion so deliberate, the entire formation slumped into hush. Double quotes, yes, child? She approached the dais, lips parted. Then impossible, she hummed a note crystalline and impossibly pure, a high A that resonated in the wooden ribs of the nave. One by one the other children matched her, as though inhaling the very sound. They abandoned their books. What emerged was not pure natus, it was new, a lilting minor mode with strange, keening suspensions, as though Eastern liturgy had wandered into Yorkshire. I scribbled notation furiously on spare ledger sheets, but the melody refused dutiful capture. The lyrics were. They Latin? No, English yet archaic, each line stitching half-familiar scripture to fragmented prophecy. Smoke shall shroud the man-made mine, blackened lungs and silence twine. On the third night bells will mourn, salvation drowns mid waves forlorn. The stanza repeated, modulating upward a perfect fourth until the final cadence perched unresolved, like a sparrow on winter wire. When the last note faded, the girls stared at me, breathless, awaiting verdict. I forced a smile. Lovely, very creative. Who taught you this hymn? Blank faces. Only Eva answered, whisper thin. No one, Sister Lucy. We heard it yesterday out by the yew tree. You heard it? In the wind, Eva said, as though explaining rain to fished out the bell from midday meal spared further interrogation. The first omen. 2 evenings later, a mining cart exploded in Kilnwick Colliery, 6 miles west. Methane fireball, 3 fatalities, 14 injuries. The parish vicar telegraphed the convent, requesting prayers. Headlines in the Yorkshire Gazette read, Smoke shrouds man-made mine. I dropped the newspaper. The phrase matched the Orphan. Hymn exactly. Coincidence, I reason coincidence is swollen by grief and an overactive musical ear. Still, my heart hammered a fugue. I sought Mother Superior. Mother Benedicta listened, hooded eyes unblinking, while I recounted the rehearsal and recited the prophetic lines. At 67, she resembled the stone saints adorning the cloister, weathered, remote, as if eternity had already offered her a seat. Hymns evolve, she said. Our Lord inspires tongues to speak mysteries. Guard your zeal, Sister Lucy, lest you conjure heresy from happenstance. She dismissed me with a blessing. I left unsatisfied. Evidence in green ink. That night I returned to the chapel, lantern trembling. I spread my ledger on the harpsichord, compared each lyric to the Gazette article. Word for word alignment. My quill scratched margin notes, statistical improbability, folk medium, glossolalia. I was still a scholar at heart, seeking taxonomy. For wonder, a footstep behind. Eva, silent as snow, stood by the front pew. Couldn't sleep. She offered, voice no louder than moth wings. I steeled myself. Eva, why did you and the others sing that hymn? She stared at the stained glass Saint Cecilia, moonlight bruising her face violet and blue. Sometimes we hear songs, in dreams, in wind. If we don't sing them out, they stay in our heads. And hurt? She placed a small hand over her temple. Like bees, a shiver roamed my spine. I knelt, met her eye level. Eva, who taught you to listen for these songs? No one. She hesitated. It started the day my sister died. She bit her lip hard enough that I feared blood. I searched my memory. The Orphan register listed Eva Wright as only surviving child of cholera victims. No sister recorded. Perhaps a twin lost at birth? The ledger offered no clarity. Go to bed, I whispered. And if another song comes, come find me first. She nodded, slipped away. I dropped to the bench, exhaustion. Soaking bones. I wished for even the faintest ring of chapel bells, anything mundane to elbow aside the impossible. Hallucinations or Holy Writ. January 13th, bone-white dawn. The girls lined the nave without command, as though roused by invisible conductor. Ava's eyelids flickered, charting some interior sheet music. I inhaled to announce a Dorothée devote, but before tongue met tooth, the choir unleashed a different canon. Water fouled shall cradle death, bowed will break the baker's breath. Pestilence. In child and awe bitter wells birth sickness new. The refrain wove counterpoint sopranos descending, altos ascending, voices dovetailing in medieval organum. I felt ill. The music's architecture was mathematically perfect, yet emotionally dissonant, engendering dread. After rehearsal, Agnes cornered me in the corridor. That lyric about fouled water, should we forbid it? Father O'Donoghue might find it apocalyptic. Let him find it what he will, I snapped, then immediately begged pardon. Agnes touched my shoulder gentle. Pity or warning. And left. That very evening a messenger galloped from Low Bridge Farm. An outbreak of dysentery. Several children already dead. Physicians tracing cause to a contaminated well. The farm lay 3 miles north, close enough that some convent. Vegetables came from there. I dropped my teacup. Porcelain shattered, scald seeping across habit and floorboards alike. Water fouled shall cradle death. Coincidence again? 2 predictions could still be chance if you're blind to patterns. I wasn't. Letters never sent. Draft letter, unsent, to the R2 Rev Bishop Wilberforce, Your Grace. I write in trembling conscience. The children under my tutelage appear to compose prophetic hymns foretelling local disasters. Thus far, mine explosion and dysenteric plague have followed within 48 hours of our rehearsals. I fear a diabolical influence or else a charism. Wholly beyond Catholic canon, I beg instructions. I folded, sealed, then tore the seal. For any bishop miles away, a young nun's claims of clairvoyant orphans would read as lunacy at best, blasphemy at worst. They might shutter St. Clara's, disperse the girls, brand them witches. No, better gather evidence. Instead, I wrote a more neutral epistle to Dr. Jonathan Brand, Dean of Musicology at Oxford, my former mentor, though now friend only by letter. Letter sent to Dr. Brand, January 14th. The children produce melodies of Byzantine modality, uncommon to English folk tradition. Enclosed, please find transcriptions, Nuz. 1-2. I enclose my notated staves and on impulse, a lock of Ava's maize blonde hair, provenance unknown, but perhaps useful for phrenology should Brand indulge. I prayed the Royal Mail lived up to its motto. Confessional whispers, Saturday evening confession. Each girl approached the lattice. Most sins were childlike pilfered jam, sloth in mending socks. Eva knelt last. Silence stretched until I feared she'd left. Finally, her voice paper thin. Bless me, sister, for I am frightened. Of what, my child? The songs choose us. We can't choose them. Who decides? I don't know. I only feel the buzzing. When we sing, the buzzing stops. A theology formed unbidden. Prophet against will, Psalms as pressure valve. Ava continued, what if the songs get worse? What if they make people hate us? My throat tightened. Then I will protect you. I promise before God. She exhaled, maybe relief, maybe doubt. I offered penance, 3 Hail Marys and a candle. Lit for victims of the mind blast. Ava accepted with solemn nod. Left booth like a pale lantern's ghost. I remained kneeling after she'd gone, forehead against grate, whispering penance for my own burgeoning heresy. I believe, Lord. Help my unbelief. The eve of Epiphany, foreshadowed trembling, January 18th, fell on a Sunday. The nave brimmed with parishioners, miners' wives in black, farmers smelling of lanolin and cold iron. The orphan choir assembled for Mass, Eva positioned. Dead center. They opened with Veni Creator Spiritus, Latin crisp, despite missing teeth and regional burr. It should have been comforting. Instead, I noted micro-strange inflections, chromatic slips, breaths in synchrony, unnatural for children. A high B-flat shimmering above the chord opened a harmonic, filling rafters with subharmonic moan like a distant ship horn. Congregants shivered. During the homily Father O'Donoghue preached on the Magi, he likened the star over Bethlehem to conscience guiding men through darkness. At that instant sunlight pierced cloud, refracted through St. Cecilia's ruby glass, and painted Ava's face blood red. She did not flinch. Offertory commenced. Ava lifted her chin, palpably trembling. She mouthed something not Latin. Her gaze fixed me in silent plea. I signaled a simple Gloria Patri, safe, short. The choir began, but second verse warped. They modulated into the minor prophetic theme. I felt the pews tense. Crimson sails on northern tide. Shepherd lost. The lamb shall hide. When the third bell fails to ring, ravens crown a silent king. Father O'Donoghue slammed his missal shut. Enough! His shout ricocheted off stone. The congregation gasped. Sister Agnes rushed forward, motioning the girls to stand down. Choir broke into scattered coughing and tears. Mass dismissed in disarray. Parishioners muttering fears of devilish possession or angelic visitation, uncertain which terrified more. In vestry, Father confronted me. Explain these lyrics. They emerged spontaneously. I'm investigating. Investigate faster. Superstitious talk of omens will empty pews and swell the public house. If this persists, I'll request diocesan inquest. His eyes normally mild as sherry-burned flint. He left me reeling. That night, thunderhead clouds marched across moonlight. The abbey dogs howled. I dreamt of crimson sails flapping over the convent roof, each mast topped with ravens wearing crowns of bone. A note in the belfry, unable to sleep. I climbed the narrow spiral to the bell tower, my secret refuge of thought. The lantern cast skeletal ribs on limestone. Wind hissed through slits like organ pipes out of tune. Tucked into the crevice beside the tenor bell I found a scrap of paper. Green ink bleeding from damp. Third bell fails when heart of brass meets hammer wrought in glass. Break the bell. Break the song, or else the night shall swallow long. No signature. I recognized Ava's careful hand from copybook exercises. But how had she ascended the locked stair? And why address me in riddle? I pocketed the note. Outside, a lone churchyard. Raven cawed thrice like punctuation to prophecy. Act ending beat. The vision of Saint Cecilia. In the small hours I returned to the chapel. The moon, now free of clouds, poured silver across pews. I knelt before Saint Cecilia's stained glass. Her depicted mouth curved in eternal chant, eyes uplifted to invisible glory. Tonight, however, the face appeared subtly altered. The painted pupil seemed turned not heavenward, but directly at me. Illusion of light, or something stranger. I could not decide. I heard child footfalls, a dozen at least, approaching behind. Turning, I saw the entire choir in their nightgowns, Eva foremost, candle in fist. Without cue, they formed two ranks and began to hum that unresolved minor cadence, barely audible. Ava whispered around the flame, "They won't stop. The songs are coming faster. How many hymns do you hear now?" "Too many to sing before dawn," her candle sputtered. Wax dripped like blood onto flagstones. I inhaled the iron tang of impending storm, though walls were stone thick and windows sealed. "Go back to bed," I commanded. "Tomorrow we'll speak to Mother Benedicta." "What if tomorrow is too late?" Eva asked. The Hymns Multiply editorial preface, British Library, MS 9432 FFF, 48-96, folios 4896. Cover a single fortnight in January 1852, during which Sister Lucy claims the children produced 7 further prophetic hymns. Marginalia in red ink clearly. Lucy's mark points she considered factual corroboration. We retain her spelling and punctuation, except where illegible. Return post from Oxford, the 20th of January 1852. Jonathan Brand's letter arrived atop the breakfast trolley like an early benediction. I slit the seal while porridge cooled. My dear Lucy, your transcriptions fascinate. The melodic contour traces the Fibonacci series 112358 in its interval structure, unprecedented in vernacular hymnody. The text, though archaic, scans in trochaic heptameter, favored by 16th century recusant poets. Are you sure these children improvise? I urge you to send a phonographic cylinder. Mr. Edward Leon Scott's phonautograph may capture proof. Ever your friend, J. Brand Fibonacci. Again that name. The cipher in Ava's first song, the line count of her green ink warning, all tethered to that spiral of numbers nature hides in shells and storms. I folded the letter with trembling respect. If mathematics lurked in their music, we faced more than hysteria. Crimson sails on the northern tide. 4 nights later, prophecy unfurled itself upon the North Sea. During supper, Agnes burst into the refectory, habit soaked, eyes salt stung. Shipwreck on Whitby Head. Fishermen hauled 7 bodies, Captain. Deckhands, 1 shepherd returning with lambs for spring market. The room froze. Shepherd lost. The lambs shall hide. I bolted to the courtyard, rain needle hard. Over rooftops I glimpsed the harbor's flares reflecting off a flapping scarlet cloth. The wreck's mainsail, stained crimson by rust-proof paint. Ravens wheeled above the pyre-like mast. A bell failed to ring, the harbor's 3rd watch bell, they said. Its clapper jammed by ice. The Orphan hymn had named every token. That night I wrote Father O. Donahue a plea to delay any inquest until I finished collecting data. He replied with a single clipped sentence. God is not data. Buzzing becomes a plague. The orphans now complained of the bee hum almost hourly. Ava suffered worst. Nosebleeds, tremors, nights of muttered song while asleep. Infirmary tonics did nothing. I began cataloging episodes. Date time hymn trigger physical symptom, the 22nd of January 214, unvoiced humming, F-sharp minor, Ava epistaxis. 2 others migraine, the 23rd of January 1106, full choir recites stanza. 4 of new song 5 girls nausea. 1 faints the 24th of January 1840, no audible hymn hum present. 6 complain of sparks behind eyes. Agnes suggested laudanum. I refused. Clouding young minds might sever whatever fragile tether guided their prophecies. Instead I tried counter-singing simple plainsong, hoping to overwrite the alien melodies. It worked briefly like candlelight before gale. Exorcist at the Gate. Sunday, the 25th of January, Bishop Wilberforce's envoy arrived unannounced, Father Matthias. Crane, Society of Jesus, reputation forged in the slums of Whitechapel as an expeller of demons and doubter of none. Tall, raven-haired, eyes the gray of loaded gunmetal. He inspected dormitories, questioned each girl, requested copies of hymns. When Eva spoke of songs in wind, his expression tightened. At supper, he addressed the sisters. These manifestations may be preternatural, demonic, mimicry clothed in piety. Isolation of the infected will starve the entity. He recommended immediate removal of Ava, the perceived conduit, to the diocesan house in York. Mother Benedicta looked to me. My pulse hammered, but my voice steadied, with respect. Father, isolating a child already orphaned twice will break her spirit. Allow me 48 hours to prove a natural explanation. Crane relented, thin-lipped. 48 hours became my crucible. The convent archive and its forbidden shelf I turned to stone for answers. Late that night Agnes smuggled me the rusted key to the Undercroft. Use it before my courage wanes, she whispered. Torch in hand I descended steps scalloped by centuries of penitent knees. Damp books slept on iron racks. donation ledgers, burial charts, shipping manifests for altar wine. In a moldy chest I unearthed the prize, Saint-Clara, 1781 to 1811. Found her mother Edith's diary. 3 lines leapt, underlined in brown ink. The 13th of March, 1789. The Orphan choir sang the storm again. Bells cracked, miners drowned. Our visitor from Spain marked numbers on a shell. 112358. If the spiral reaches 34, the sea will swallow the Moor. A marginal note, different hand added decades later. We sealed the ledger lest song breed song. My torch sputtered out. In darkness I mouthed a prayer, half Fibonacci, half credo. Experiment with wax morning of the 26th, I borrowed the village apothecary's newfangled tinfoil cylinder recorder. He used it to log debts in his shaky baritone. I perched the contraption on the communion rail, wound the crank, and signaled rehearsal. The children launched into a fresh composition triple meter. Die Phrygian, lyrics foretelling glass and brass midnight mass. I felt rather than heard. Resonance in the bell tower overhead, as though metal tasted its coming fate. After dismissal, I played the cylinder. Instead of music, a deep drone-like swarms inside cathedral vaults emerged, punctured by faint child voices underneath, each syllable reversed. I rewound, slowed rotation. The drone resolved into overlapping. Echoes of the Fibonacci numbers chanted in Latin. Unum-duo-dr es-quinque-octo. Over and over. My scalp prickled. Brand would salivate, but Father Crane would see proof of evil. The bell that would not survive. Twilight. Snow began to fall. Fat and silent. Ava found me in the cloister arcade, cheeks bloodless. It has chosen the bell, she said. What has? The song. It wants the third bell. If it breaks, the next song is free. Sister, we must stop it. How? She pressed the cracked green ink note into my palm again, knuckles white. Heart of brass meets hammer wrought in glass. I remembered the glassworks 2 valleys east, its itinerant glazier who once mended the rose window. Glass hammer metaphor? Or literal means to shatter prophecy? Thunder growled distant, as if moorland itself tuned for performance. Midnight climax. Of Act 2, the convent clock told 11. I barred dormitory doors, posted Agnes to watch Crane's quarters, and stole to the belfry with Eva and 2 stout choir girls, Clarissa and Hannah. We carried a small mallet carved from stained glass offcuts, pilfered that afternoon. Its head glittered like crystallized sunset. Wind-thrummed ropes. The third bell, largest, named St. Cecilia, hung thono-silent. Ava climbed the ladder, humming. The new hymn under breath, guiding her own terror. At the bell rim, she placed her palm. Vibration coursed through bronze, though clapper lay still. Clarissa held the rope taut, jaw set. I raised the glass hammer. Below, nave doors slammed open. Father Crane's voice. A commandment. In the name of Christ, descend. Behind him torchlight wavered with armed parish men. We had seconds. Strike the heart. Ava whispered. Glass kissed metal. A clear chiming note higher than bell's register rang out, doubled back, folded into itself. The Fibonacci drone awakened, lattice loud. My eardrums bent. Second strike crack fissured bronze like lightning in earth. Third strike, the bell split, lower half shearing away in roar of torn sky. It plunged through beams, decking, and shattered the transept floor, erupting dust and marble shards. Screams rose. Father Crane barely leapt clear. Cassock slashed by flying metal. Silence followed, not absence of sound but vacuum after implosion. Then distant echo of something vast and final, receding like tide, drawn back before tsunami. Ava collapsed. I caught her, heartbeat rapid fast. It's not over, she gasped. The spiral, 34. Outside, wolves howled, or were they wind curdling through Bell Lorne Tower? Aftermath and accusations. Dawn found convent courtyard, a battlefield, splintered oak beams, bell fragments steaming in snow, Father Crane's arm bound in sling. Parishioners clamored for arrests, some spat witch at Ava. Others crossed themselves as we passed. Mother Benedicta, eyes red with unshed years, placed us under house arrest. Yet she refused Crane's demand to take Ava. Until Rome decides, the child remains our charge. Agnes smuggled me a crust of bread and news. O'Donoghue lay abed concussed but alive. The villagers debated whether the broken bell signified apocalypse averted or loosed. Spiral mathematics. I sat with Eva in infirmary. Parchment sprawled. Explain 34, I urged. She drew a spiral numbers 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. 34 radiating outward like nautilus. Each song is a number, she said. We have sung 8. 8 is 21? No 8 songs means we are at 21. The next 13th song will be 34. That's the last. And what happens then? Sea swallows more. She coughed crimson into handkerchief. I dreamt cliffs collapsing, black water rushing through chapel doors. 34. I counted manuscripts, 8 hymns written, 5 more half-hummed. Time felt like sand in broken glass. Crowd at the gate. Evening of the 27th of January. A mob gathered, lanterns spearing dusk, miners fearing mine collapse, fishermen grieving the shipwreck, mothers clutching infants. Chants of "Send out the witch child" rolled across convent wall. Inside, novices wept. Agnes armed herself with broom. Crane, sensing tinderbox, urged Benedicta to surrender Ava for her safety. The prioress shook her snow-white head. This house was built to shelter lost lambs. We will not expel one to wolves, pressure mounted. Stones struck shutters. Act 2 needed a beat to propel us into finale and delivered. The packet of hymns. Ava, feverish, summoned me. From beneath mattress she produced folded parchment reeking of beeswax. All the songs, she murmured. Some haven't been. Soon yet, if you can read pattern, maybe stop them. Lyrics sprawled in her tidy hand, margins rife with scribbled fractions, ratios, 5/8, 8/13. The final stanza still unsung. Read. When spiral finds its 34th, moor and marrow share. One hearth. Choir of ages cease their breath, sound and silence wed in death. Lightning webbed the window glass as if punctuation. Act ending beat. Sister Lucy's choice. In my study I spread maps, fault lines, floodplains, mining shafts. 34 Fibonacci's. 8th step, an avalanche of coincidence or blueprint of destruction. Yet one truth cut deeper. The hymns amplified when children were together. Separate them, perhaps fragment the spiral, but separation meant surrender to Crane and those who would cage or dissect. Keeping them united meant risking prophecy's endgame. Clamor outside thickened chant. Now a single word. Burn. I knelt, blew dust off Mother Edith's diary, and found last postscript. The spiral hungers for chorus, not solo. Decision crystallized. I must scatter the choir before the 13th hymn. I packed satchels, plotted routes to sympathetic priories. Agnes agreed to spirit 3 girls south at dawn. I would lead Eva west across the moor this very night, storm or no. If we failed, sea or spiral would claim its due. Candles guttered. I extinguished the last, whispering to darkness, Lord, count these children by names, not numbers. The 13th hymn archivist's note, BLM, S9432F, FF, 97 to 144. Parts of Sister Lucy's final entries are blurred by water damage, presumably the same flood she describes. Illegible portions are marked. Spelling and punctuation retained. Night flight across the moor, the 27th to the 28th of January 1852. We left St. Clara's in sleet so hard it stung like shot. Ava rode astride the convent's lone donkey, Patch, her small fists knotted in the gray mane. I walked beside, lantern hooded. Agnes and 3 girls slipped away south by cart. The rest would follow different roads at first light. Our hope. Fracture the chorus, snap the spiral. Only half a mile on, church bells pealed impossible. The 3rd bell lay in ruins. I realized it was the mob ringing the 1st and 2nd bells in warning. Torches flickered at the cloister gate. Father Crane's black silhouette shouted orders. Pursuit had begun. Wind scudded sleet sideways. The moor became a single whistling throat. Eva hummed under her breath fragments of earlier hymns, then something new, softer, unfinished. Not now. I begged. It's inside, she whispered. The 13th wants a voice. We pressed west toward the disused Roman aqueduct arches of cyclopean stone, the color of whale bone, spanning a gorge carved by the river Whitbeck. If we could cross and fell the rotten footbridge behind, pursuers would lose hours. Lightning spidered horizon to horizon, revealing the aqueduct like ribs of a giant beached upon peat. Each flash stuttered Ava's shadow atop the donkey, crown. Of wild hair, of static dot halfway along the wooden walkway. Thunder cracked musket fire. A bullet chewed plank at my heel. Crane's men had rifles. Go! I hissed, patch skittered, Eva clung. Another shot splinter shower. We reached the stone pier. I wrestled with the rope saw I'd packed, teeth chattering. Gunfire spat sparks off masonry. At last the hemp girder severed. The far half of the walkway folded inward with groan of murdered timber. Vanishing into river blackness. Torchlight halted 3 arches back. Crane's voice boomed biblical across water. Sister Lucy, return. The child, God's work needs no fugitive. I shouted over wind. Then let God catch us first. Ava tugged my sleeve. Listen. I heard beneath wind and thunder a deeper roar. River and spate, swollen by days of rain and snowmelt, smashing aqueduct footings. Masonry trembled, ancient mortar giving up its centuries. We ran into Heath's darkness as the arch behind us collapsed in geysers of stone and spray, severing pursuit. The Hermitage of St. Brendan. Toward dawn we reached a turf-roofed Hermitage, long abandoned, crouched beside a tarn reflecting bruised clouds. Inside, a peat fire lay half set as if some hidden anchorite still minded it. I coaxed flame, dried Ava's cloak. Her fever had climbed. Cheekbones glowed. Sing it, she murmured. Better here with only you. I shook my head. Even one voice might feed the spiral. Eva closed eyes. Then I must grow silent forever. She produced a folded, scrap fresh lyrics scrawled during the ride. Spiral broken, voices part, seed of silence sown in heart. If the mirrored hymn be sung, sound and breathe as one. Mirrored hymn. I remembered Brand's note about reversed syllables on the wax cylinder. Perhaps inversion retrograde could neutralize resonance. We spent the day crafting counter hymn. I transcribed each interval of the earliest prophecy backward, mapped Fibonacci 34 descending to 2113-8532110. At 0-silence. Night settled. Snowflake soft now, resigned. I set quill down. Ava's head lolled against mantle. I dozed. Dreamt of seashell spirals uncoiling, flattening into straight line pointing due north toward the convent. The broken choir reassembled dream became waking. Hooves, wheels, voices. Outside, I cracked door. A cart rocked into yard. Agnes at reins, Clarissa, Hannah, plus 4 others I'd thought safe en route to Ripon. Behind them, Father Crane astride dappled horse, cassock wind-tattered but eyes alight not with triumph, but terror. The tide, he barked. River exploded its banks after aqueduct fell. Water races down valley. Pithlaras lies in its path. We must return, warn the rest. Spiral prophecy, sea swallows more. Not ocean, but inland flood. Crane dismounted, approaching Eva with unexpected gentleness. Child, can your song stop water? Eva stared at him, pupils huge. Only if we sing together, all of us. She gestured to assembled orphans, 11 total now. Add the 7 still at convent, and we reached 18 again, the full Fibonacci count of earlier disasters. My stomach pitched, but the mirrored hymn called for disunity, voices part. To sing together was to risk unleashing number 13. Agnes, read my face. What alternative? Let water drown them? Eva touched my wrist. Sister, the hymn you wrote, let us sing it against the other. My mind raced. 2 choirs and antiphon prophecy versus counter-prophecy interference. Pattern might cancel resonance like meeting waves. Desperate mathematics of faith. Crane nodded, surprise humility. Then we ride. Return to the doom-lit convent, the 28th of January, 9 p.m. We approached from West Road. Torches flickered along outer wall. Villagers formed a barricade atop wagons, piled as dam against the oncoming torrent. A roar like locomotive thundered beyond hills, the Whitbeck flood. Inside chapel, remaining orphans huddled with Mother Benedicta, chanting Hail Marys. Relief at reunion melted into fear as Eva explained plan. 2 choirs, red choir, prophetic hymns in nave. White choir, counter hymn in gallery. They would sing simultaneously, inverted melodies colliding mid-air. Father Crane would preside, one hand upon Bible, other upon fractured bell shard as talisman. Timing is everything, I told them. Begin when river strikes first buttress. End on silence. If either side falters, spiral prevails. No rehearsal, voices raw with cold and dread. Yet as positions settled, a hush of purpose anchored room. Outside, flood rumble neared. Stones quivered under solace. The choir inhaled. The duel of songs. Eva raised hand down, beat invisible red. Choir launched, haunting Phrygian prophecy, when spiral finds its 34th. Simultaneously I cued white choir overhead, opening on the retrograde interval high to low. Spiral broken, voices part. Waves of sound crashed. Like opposing tides minor against Lydian, tritone clashes sparking harmonic lightning. Air thickened, rafters vibrated. Villagers stumbled inside to gape as pews buzzed. Pulse quickened, river slammed convent wall. Water jetted through lower lancet windows, swirling round ankles. Choirs held pace, no shrieks breaking cadence. At midpoint, Fibonacci climax 13 bars. Eva's voice soared, then sputtered as coughing fit seized her. Red choir wavered, prophecy lines skipped beat. Spiral threatened ascendancy. Instinct took me. I leapt gallery rail, landing in nave knee-deep icy water. Seized Eva's lyrics and sang a lone low contralto against children's tremulous sopranos. Missing bar reversed. Seat of silence, 0, breathe as one. On final word, both choirs cut absolute stillness. Even flood roar hushed, as if vast ear awaited echo. Bell tower, though emptied of metal, exhaled a single harmonic sigh, then nothing. A grinding boom followed, not from chapel, but hills. Earthen dam of snowmelt collapsed outward into meadow. Diverting surge around convent foundations. Water in chapel stilled at calf height, then began to recede through shattered tiles like tide returning to unseen sea. Outside, villagers gasped prayers. Some knelt in mud. Eva sagged. I caught her. Fever broke like jar of warm honey, skin cooled. Aftershock. And inquiry dawn, the 29th of January. Mist clung low. River carved new channel far side of orchard, sparing village. Bishop Wilberforce arrived with engineers and newspapers, already printing rumors of miracle. Crane's deposition credited courage of sisters, meteorological fortune, and divine mercy. No mention of Fibonacci or prophecy. He recommended convent closure for structural repair. Bishop agreed. Children would disperse to diocesan schools. Privately, Crane addressed me. Evil or grace, sister, you met it with faith. I misjudged. He offered small smile like sunrise through arrow-slit. Mother Benedicta embraced Ava long lamb of two worlds. Agnes wept openly. Farewell scene on lawn. Each girl boarded separate coach. Ava last she pressed miniature shell into my palm. Nautilus cross-section, inked with numbers descending to zero. Keep listening, she said. Silence can sing too. Coach rattled off, her hand waving until fog ate color. Coda, Diary of Sister Lucy. The 7th of February 1852. Convent half ruin, yet birds nest in pew rafters. Engineers call flood a 1 in 500-year event. I call it algebra of providence. Received parcel from Dr. Brand, wax cylinder cleaned, and amplified reveals beneath our retrograde hymn no drones. Only faint ocean surf, then utter silence. He asks explanation. I wrote back one word, unspiraled. Sometimes at vespers I fancy I hear a distant hum near zero frequency heartbeat of silence itself. If so, may it stay content. She signs. In Dio Silentium, Sar Lucianing. Postscript by the 1973 archivist when St. Clara's was deconsecrated in 1904. Demolition survey found a glass hammer embedded in nave foundation. Tests show fracture lines consistent with bell bronze. Local folklore still warns. When children sing numbers on the wind, bar your doors and break your bells. As for Eva Wright, parish records list her later as Dr. Eva Wright, FRMS, Professor of Acoustic Mathematics, University of Edinburgh, 1889 to 1921. Her inaugural lecture, now lost, was titled The Geometry of Silence.